A veterinarian notified police as soon as they spotted an odd ultrasound of a pregnant tigress. John Pringle was an avid animal lover. He had been raised among many various species as a youngster, including 2 dogs, 2 cats, guinea pigs, rabbits, and many more. When he was older, the small kid knew he wanted to work with animals since he had fallen in love with them. John decided to start his zoo when he was old enough. As many exotic creatures as he could discover were added to the man's zoo. John's zoo has a lot to be proud of in terms of its residents, from wolves to lions. But among all the animals he cared for alongside the tigers, the zoo owner's favorite was the tiger. Because of how big they were and how nice their fur was, he wanted to watch them in their cage all day. However, John wasn't the only one who thought the tigers were intriguing. A sizable portion of the public who went to the zoo to see the animals also adored the big cats. Since park visitors were eager to view the wonderful creatures, there was often a sizable throng near the tiger's cage. Only 2 tigers, Julie and Shade, 2 females that John had named, were kept at John's zoo overall. Sunbathing tigresses were frequently spotted around their cage. However, John would sometimes think of entertaining methods to feed the animals, such as freezing their meat in a block of ice that the big cats had to move about to make them a little more fascinating for visitors. Additionally, the zookeeper would conceal food for the tigers around the cage and hang it from tall trees. The animals would jump around and play, which would make the visitors laugh. However, just a few years after the zoo's debut, visitor numbers began to fall. The zoo began to lose money without visitors paying to come and view the animals, and John was concerned that he would ultimately have to shut down the attraction and relocate his animals somewhere else. The guy determined that the best way to prevent this from occurring would be to introduce a young animal to the park to draw in more visitors. He also opted to breed tigers, one of his favorite animals. John did all he could over the next several months to locate a male tiger to procreate with his ladies. But no matter where he sought, he was unable to locate a reliable breeder with a healthy male. John started looking for shady companies that might be able to help him get a young tiger cub as his desire to get one grew. The guy eventually tracked down someone who had a male tiger they were willing to let procreate with Tigress Julie. John scheduled the appointment as soon as he could since he was overjoyed. But the breeder's main requirement for getting the male tiger was that Julie is transported to their cage and left there until she got pregnant. John first had some doubts, but he accepted the breeder's conditions since he was desperate to produce some tiger babies. But Julie had been showing indications of pregnancy for a while. To find out whether she was going to give birth to any cubs, John requested that a veterinarian come to the zoo. The veterinarian's ultrasound revealed that the tigress was pregnant and that all of our pups seemed to be in good condition and were developing normally. John found it hard to believe. He was going to have a litter of tiger cubs to help the zoo get more attention, and his wishes were about to come true. Over the months, Julie grew larger and larger. The tigress's pregnancy was obvious, and she seemed to be on the verge of giving birth. However, Julie refused to give birth to her cubs despite her size and evident agony. John was very perplexed. He didn't understand the big cat's reasons for refusing to have her litter. Even her delivery cage and the enclosure had been given the utmost care and comfort. But no matter what the zoo owner attempted, the tigress steadfastly refused to give birth to her babies. John decided to contact the veterinarian to see if they could figure out what was happening, since he was worried for the health of the animal and her young. But when the veterinarian arrived at the zoo to check on the animal, he saw something extremely odd and promptly called police. The tigress was lying down and unable to get back up when the veterinarian arrived at John's zoo. The creatures seemed to be in great discomfort. John and the veterinarian were both concerned that the big cat may have a major problem. To detect any strange sensations, the veterinarian started to feel the tigress's tummy. When he discovered a peculiar hard tumor in her lower abdomen, he was taken aback. The veterinarian instantly put Julie to sleep and started an ultrasound on it since he was worried about what it might be. After a few tense minutes, the vet stopped the ultrasound suddenly and told John he had to make an important phone call. John agreed in confusion and observed as the veterinarian left. After a little while, the veterinarian entered the clinic again, and John asked him whether his tiger was doing well. The veterinarian assured the man that everything would be fine, but since he needed to perform a small operation, he wanted to wait for some backup. John waited for almost 15 minutes before hearing a siren. It had a police sound about it. In addition, it sounded like they were moving in the direction of the zoo. Sure enough, a police vehicle arrived at the zoo shortly after it had been driving by, and 2 cops stepped out. When John asked the vet what was wrong, the physician said that he thought the tigress had an illegal implant, which was giving her a lot of agonies. John was then informed that he would need to conduct a little operation to remove the implant from the animal. The police questioned John while he was doing this, about where he had acquired his tigers, why he was breeding them, and who he had employed as a breeder. John answered all the questions as honestly as he could, feeling quite puzzled and worried. He told the police about the breeder he had used and how they had made him give them Julie while he was trying to get pregnant. The breeder John hired was known for selling exotic animals on the black market. The police told John this, and it was clear that the breeder had put the device in the Tigress to keep an eye on her and her cubs. If he did this, he might then come and steal the goats to sell them later. John was astonished by this finding. He had no idea that someone would harm these magnificent and helpless creatures in such a way. After being satisfied with John's account, the police took the implant from the veterinarian and left the zoo to track down the breeder. In Julie's case, the veterinarian assisted in the delivery of 3 gorgeous and healthy tiger cubs. John couldn't believe his eyes when he finally saw the newborn tigers, however. One of them was an extremely rare white tiger. The guy concluded that the breeder was most likely going to attempt to take this cub. He was fortunate enough to get assistance from the police and a veterinarian to care for a cute tiger family at a zoo. John ultimately let Julie and her young daughter back into their cage after a few days of recovery. Their adorable brood helped the zoo get a lot of new visitors, allowing it to continue operating. John, though, was only delighted to see the incredible family of tigers interacting and amusing one another. He couldn't have asked for anything more. John also learned from the police not long after the cubs were born that they had located and detained the breeder who had implanted Julie. John was happy that they would no longer pose a threat to his tigers and that they could now coexist and raise their families peacefully. What an amazing tale! Comment below and let us know what you think of it. For more wonderful stories, don't forget to like and subscribe.